Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 5 of What If Naruto Was the Red X. If you guys enjoyed this what if, and want to see part 6 of it, comment down below and let me know. And go ahead and check out other what ifs in the channel. Before we start, please do support for more awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So let's start this video. Neji walked into his and the other Konohanins' hideout before roughly tossing Sasuke's bloody, bruised, and nearly crushed body inside, awakening the prick and making him groan in pain. Sasuke-kun. Sakura exclaimed, rushing over to the boy, while Kakashi looked up from his book with a raised brow directed to Neji. What happened? Kakashi questioned, and Neji narrowed his eyes on Sasuke as Sakura healed him. He attacked this land's police, murdered more than 24 of them, revealed us to the world at large, then had a confrontation with Naruto which resulted in his present condition. Neji explained, and Ino slapped her face with a groan. He just made us a shitload of enemies, didn't he? She questioned, and Neji nodded, while Kakashi could only sigh. How is he such a genius? I mean, yes, he can use high-powered jutsu, and has a great skill in Tai and Kenjutsu, but seriously, what ninja reveals themselves to the authorities then kills them? Not only that, but now Naruto will be watching for us, alerted to our presence. It would take nothing short of a miracle or an act of Kami herself just to find him. The older Jonin thought to himself as Ino was glaring at Sasuke, and Hinata walked over to Neji. Neji, is Naruto alright? She questioned with a slight stutter, and Neji frowned to himself. As far as he could tell, Sasuke had got the brunt of that last attack. Naruto now wears some form of chakra-enhanced armor. Not only that, but it seems his skills have increased greatly. However, his chakra seemed slightly sporadic. It is likely that when Sasuke faced him, it was already after he had been weakened from an earlier battle. Or perhaps his training with elemental manipulation left him little time to work on his chakra control. Neji explained, then mused, and Kakashi's eyes widened. He was still trying to grasp the concept of the boy being that dangerous. After all, he thought he'd mellowed out back when he was 8. There's no way a weakened Naruto can do this to Sasuke-kun. Sakura then shouted out towards Neji, who scoffed. Why the hell couldn't Tsunade have sent a competent ninja with them, who wasn't a fangirl? Believe what you will, Sakura, but it appears that we have misjudged the difference between ourselves and Naruto. Do not forget that he was the one who defeated the supposedly invincible Uchiha Madara. Neji reminded, and Sakura froze. She had forgotten about that and suddenly felt scared. If he could beat Madara, what kind of chance did they have to capture him? Chance? You don't have a fucking chance, you cheating motherfucking bitch. I personally hope he beats the living hell out of you, just so I can shove your ass into the deepest pits of this mind and take over for myself, just to let you know what it's like to be locked away. The angered voice of her inner Sakura called out angrily, and Sakura started to shake, placing her hands over her ears to block out the voice. This had become a problem recently. Her inner self and she had different views on Naruto. Her inner self seemed to like him now, while she still wanted Sasuke, and as it was, she had to keep control lest her inner self make her threats very real. Neji, was there anything else you could tell about Naruto besides him being weakened? Kakashi questioned, and Neji frowned slightly. He seems to have upped his elemental manipulation beyond anything we thought possible, as well as some new taijutsu style I've never seen before. Neji reported, and Kakashi frowned. This was worse than he had thought. Naruto was definitely not going to be beaten easily, and thanks to Sasuke, they had no way of asking anyone for help. Why the fucking hell does everything always have to go south whenever he's involved? Mom, why does everyone always call me a demon? The younger Naruto questioned, while his mother was wiping a scratch that was on his right cheek. The woman gave Naruto a slight sad look before smiling and hugging the blonde-haired child. They just don't understand, Naruto, they just want to make you feel bad because they do. She whispered to the blonde, who closed his eyes as his mother held him close to her, only to open them a second later, and find himself in a dark sewer. Mom? Little Naruto questioned, looking around, then walked down the path before. Soon a strange hymn began to play, a song, which seemed to echo down the halls of the sewer, and never seemed to stop. Shivering, the tiny blonde-haired child walked down the halls of the sewer, only to come upon a massive cage Kyuubi. He whispered and then felt himself return to his full size. What an interesting dream you're having. Came a calm voice, and Naruto turned to see a familiar ninja with half a torn mask, covering the right side of his face, the left covered by a mask like Kakashi's, and some of his hid eye. You? Naruto said with shock and surprise in his voice as the man leaned against a wall, arms crossed over his chest and white hair smoothed back. So, you do remember me? The man said simply as he then pushed off of the wall, folding his arms behind his back as he slowly walked towards Naruto, who assumed a crouched stance. Come now, I'm not the person who killed your mother, child, merely a ghost from another world. The man said simply while Naruto remained on alert. The man chuckled lightly at this, then lifted a head and closed his single visible eye. Beautiful, a symphony of madness. He said, and Naruto twitched, as the man then looked into the cave, the boy following his gaze. He saw Kyuubi's eyes open, but something else. He saw 4 red eyes open as well, a pair of 2D grins appearing beneath Kyuubi's and the other sets of eyes. Naruto then turned to the man who looked like his tormentor, only for him to reach up and pull off his Tor mask, dropping it to the ground. Soon the end will begin, and whether you like it or not, child. The man turned at this, and Naruto took a step back, seeing a skeletal face with a red S-shaped symbol at his brow had replaced what he had seen before, his clothes having changed to someone else's as well. There's nothing either you or she can do to stop it, the man said ominously, then turned back to the cage, darkness consuming Naruto's vision at that moment. Naruto quickly sat up with a start, only to place a hand onto his head and groan lowly. Ugh, okay, what hit me this time? A freight train? Naruto questioned while slowly rubbing his now throbbing head, and then shook it, clearing it of the clouds, only to hear someone's voice. Actually, you and some guy with a sword hit one another with two powerful and somehow purely elemental attacks. The dull tone came from nearby, making Naruto stiffen, before reaching up and making sure his mask was still on. He then grumbled to himself, seeing as it was, and he hadn't been able to notice it even with his HUT still on. Turning around slowly, Naruto saw he was in a dark room with black and blue painted over the walls and a flame pattern along the ground, an almost grey carpet with a purple streak crossing the room to end at the bed, which was an almost oval shape with something at its head which resembled a cloak being pulled up with a red gem. Also in the room was a triangular bookcase in one of the walls with a statue of an eerie-looking raven with red eyes on it, with a strange stand that had a statue of two theatrical masks on it as well, an old-fashioned globe at the wall opposite the bookcase. Near to him, the blonde noticed a window that took up most of the wall with dark drapes pulled over it. A long dresser lays to his other side, with a hand mirror laid atop it with a golden cup near it, and a mirror on the wall behind it, all beside another bookcase which lay inside the wall itself. Okay, I have to say this is by far weirder than even Jinx's room, and she likes unicorns. Naruto said mostly to himself, then noticed that Raven was floating off the ground before him, her hood over her head and legs folded into a lotus position, making him blink and reach up to rub the back of his neck. Did something fun happen while I was out? He questioned, only to have Raven roll her eyes, then give him a dull glare. No, she said flatly, making the thief snap his fingers comically. Too bad, he then said, while shaking his head, and Raven rolled her eyes once more. So what brings me here, Karasu? He questioned with a grin, seeing the girl tilt her head with a confused look on her face. Damn, she looked really cute when she was confused like that. Car who? She questioned, making the masked blonde snicker into his hand. Karasu. Raven, he said, and the girl made an O with her mouth before returning to her normal blank look. You're here because I have a few questions which don't involve the other titans, and only you can answer them, the girl told him, making the thief shrug his shoulders before leaning back with his arms crossed under his head and awaiting her questions. Your strange ability to control the elements, where did you learn it? She questioned, making Naruto twitch under his mask, and remained ever thankful for the mask covering it from view. Sorry, that's a little too personal. Can't have just anyone figuring out how I do my tricks now, can I? Naruto quipped, making the blue-cloaked girl frown before then shrugging her shoulders. Alright then, who was that guy with the sword? You seem to know him, she questioned, then stated, and Naruto's eyes narrowed dangerous beneath his mask. He's my problem. You and the other kids should stay out of his way, or he'll barbecue. Just leave him, and any of his friends, to me, Naruto said darkly, and Raven twitched before narrowing her own eyes on the black-clad thief. This is our city. If someone's a threat to it, we deserve to know who he is and what he can do, she said flatly, and Naruto grumbled under his breath before then crossing his arms. Name, Uchiha Sasuke. Elemental alignment, Fire and Lightning. Age, 17. Special abilities, Sharingan. Known jutsus, Chidori Nagashi, Raikiri, Kujusei no Jutsu, Ayatsuido no Jutsu, Kage Shuriken no Jutsu, Iwanuke no Jutsu, Katen. Hasenka no Jutsu, Katen. Dukaku no Jutsu, Ryuka no Jutsu, Sine Jashu, Sharingan Sufusha Sanatachi, Shunshin no Jutsu, Iwanuke no Jutsu, Kalamari no Jutsu, and Bunshin no Jutsu. Naruto listed with a hidden smirk, trying desperately not to laugh upon seeing Raven with an absolutely priceless look on her face. Huh? She questioned intelligently, and the laughter finally came in the form of snickers from the black-clad thief. If you want to know what he can do from that list, then you might want to look up some Japanese, Naruto told the girl, who glared at him angrily. What? You said you wanted to know what all he could do. You never said in what language I should tell you in, Naruto quipped humorously while wagging a finger, and the girl grunted before then crossing her arms and glaring at him. Then what about that demonic aura you had? She questioned, Naruto's eyes whitened dramatically at her words, thankfully concealed. When I pulled you out of the water, your suit had some minor damage. Only a demonic aura seemed to seep into it. Then fix it. Why do you have that? She explained, and Naruto blinked. Did that mean Kyuubi's healing chakra could also fix his suit as well as his body? Neat. That's private, Miss Blue Boots, unless you want me asking how you know it's a demonic aura, Naruto said, then threatened simply, and Raven frowned once more before nodding her head. She'd rather not have the criminal world know how she knew about demonic auras, thank you. Now is that all you wanted to know? He then questioned with a frown, and Raven sighed. One last question, why did you save me? She questioned and Naruto was silent for a few seconds. What the hell are you talking about? And in case you've forgotten, I beat the shit out of you kids earlier. The thief said smoothly, and Raven frowned once more, making Naruto grit his teeth, wondering what he did to deserve this. Alright geese, calm down. Contrary to popular belief, I'm not a villain, I'm just a thief. The kind of gray to the black and white of you kids world, if you want to call me something fancy. The only thing I'm interested in is doing what I want, nothing else, and especially not killing you. Naruto told the girl plainly, and Raven frowned once more. That still doesn't explain why you saved me. If you really only cared about yourself, you would have let that Sasuke. She started, then questioned, and Naruto nodded his head to the girl. You would have let him ram that lightning attack straight through me, and then taken him out permanently. Thus killing two birds with one stone. She said flatly, making Naruto twitch, before letting out a sigh. This, okay, the reason I saved you was because I don't like seeing people, girl in particular, die right in front of me. He said simply, and Raven raised a brow. I watched as my mother was murdered right in front of me at 8 fucking years old. How the hell would you react? He asked, darkly, eyes narrowed, and Raven winced, before looking to the side. Sorry. She offered with a softer, regretful tone, and Naruto sighed before stretching his aching muscles, and then rolling off the girl's bed to stand up. So, what now? He then asked, and Raven lifted a hand, black energy covering the limb as she waved, making the window of her room open up, confusing Naruto as he turned towards her with a raised brow under his mask. Now, we're even. I made sure no one else knew about you while you recuperated, so I don't owe you for saving me. I don't like owing people favors, so just go. She said while crossing her arms, and looking to the side with a frown. Naruto himself blinked before smiling behind his mask and shaking his head with a chuckle. We're not even. He said, and Raven turned sharply with a raised brow towards him. Sasuke, he's my responsibility, and he killed a lot of good people the other day. Until I get him back, we're not even, not by a long shot. Naruto then jumped out of the window and smirked to himself. Later, Karasu-chan. He thought to himself while using his teleportation device, leaving Raven to look out her window before closing it once more. I wonder if I should have told him he was unconscious for 4 straight days. Raven questioned of herself, then shrugged with a diabolic smirk on her lips. He'll figure it out eventually. She then said while walking out of the room and down a hall to a pair of double doors which she entered into. Within showed the Titan's main room, everyone besides herself present. Starfire was attempting to cook something once more. Robin was leaning near a computer with a frown on his face. Cyborg was sitting down next to BP, who was playing a game with what looked like Cyborg Ninja in it. X just left. Raven commented, and Robin's frown deepened, while an eye twitched under his mask. Starfire seemed to cease stirring whatever concoction she had whipped up, and Cyborg turned to her from his seat on the couch. You get the info, Ray? Cyborg questioned, and Raven formed a ball of energy, before pulling a recording device from it, then levitated said device to Cyborg. It's in some other language, he said, Japanese, so you should have that run through the translator first. Raven told the titanium teen, who simply nodded his head, then walked to a couple of doors at the side of the room and out of sight, while Robin grumbled under his breath angrily from his spot near the computer consoles. I still say we should have locked him up. The Titan's leader grumbled out loud angrily, only for Raven to frown towards him. If we did, then we wouldn't have gotten anything from him about this Sasuke character. Subterfuge was needed for getting anything out of him, Robin. Raven told the boy wonder, who merely grumbled to himself angrily. And in case you've already forgotten, Robin, we don't have any legal reason to hold X captive. 1. Lex Corporation has disavowed any knowledge of the Xenothium scanner. 2. The company who had the Xenothium is keeping it under wraps to keep from having a political backlash due to the illegal and dangerous properties of Xenothium, or we can't legally arrest him, even if we want to, Robin. Raven said with a shrug, and Robin growled angrily to himself, wondering why politics had to get in the way of justice yet again. Besides that, he may be a thief, but he's also saved my life twice now. And I might add, yours, Starfire's, Cyborg's, and Beast Boy's. Unfortunately, we all owed him one, and letting him go was the least we could do. Raven said flatly, annoying Robin further, while Starfire nodded her head from the kitchen area. This is true, friend Robin. Without the Red X we would not have been able to defeat the Chang person. Starfire's words only served to annoy Robin more. He didn't like owing a criminal anything. At least Raven's plan had given them a clean slate. Wait, Raven, did you say X knows Japanese? Beast Boy questioned, finally contributing to the conversation, turning from the game he had been playing, and looking to Raven, who nodded her head. Wow, I wonder if he's really a ninja or something. That would be so sweet. BP wondered aloud, then said, and Robin frowned to himself before taking a thoughtful expression and pondering over that idea. I've dealt with a ninja before, BP. They're stealthy and crafty, but X wasn't the same as the one I met. The boy wonder said, and BP looked at Robin with the coolest expression. The ninja I fought was cold and ruthless, yet just as skilled. X seems more laid back in battle. I think he might have ninjutsu training, but doesn't exactly follow the code to the letter. Robin mused more to himself than anything, while BP just shrugged his shoulders, before returning to his game. seemingly forgot Raven's side, then made her way out of the room and headed for the roof. She really needed to meditate. X was just so she couldn't place it, but something about him felt familiar, and he really managed to annoy her with all the comments and quips. Naruto's apartment. Damn it. Jinx grumbled as she worriedly paced back and forth in Naruto's apartment, biting one of her fingernails. Where is he? She demanded of no one while throwing her arms to the air, then rubbed the top of her head. She stopped however and, when she heard some rustling, only to twitch seeing Gizmo and Mammoth were now running around in Naruto's things, primarily the stuff he had in his duffel bag. Hey Giz, check it out. Mammoth suddenly called out and Gizmo looked over the big guy's shoulder. In the gargantuan teen's hands was a picture of a younger Naruto, being hugged by a woman with long blood-colored hair and golden yellow eyes. You think this might be Temp's mom? Mammoth questioned and Jinx looked over the redhead's shoulder as well. Who else do you think it is, Gak face? His fucking sister. The tiny terror mocked loudly and Mammoth glared at the green-wearing boy, while Jinx looked into the bag and grabbed a different picture. This one having a blonde-haired man with blue eyes who looked almost exactly like Tempest holding the same red-haired woman. This must be his dad, she said softly and Mammoth and Gizmo both looked, only to gawk. Wow. Is Tempest a clone of his dad or what? Gizmo questioned and Jinx snorted. Tempest's eyes aren't as feral as his father's. He has his mother's eye shape, but his dad's eye color. He also has his mother's nose, and those whiskers aren't his dad's, but they don't look like they come from his mom. Maybe he got into an accident or something, Jinx said thoughtfully, and both Gizmo and Mammoth snickered at the girl's words. Stopping, the girl looked at the two with a confused stare, before asking them a simple question. What? Do you have a crush on Temp or what? Cause that seems to be a little too much info for his friend to have on his appearance, Gizmo said with a grin, and Jinx blushed before twitching as the two boys fell over laughing loudly. Oh, shut and grow up, the girl exclaimed, then put the two pictures back into Naruto's bag before grabbing another one, and her eyes widened. That's him, she then exclaimed while looking at a picture of the Rookie 9, with their senseis outside of the Konoha Ninja Academy. However, Jinx was looking at Sasuke in particular, and then looked to her two friends. This is the guy who was offing all those cops, she stated, and both Mammoth and Gizmo looked at the picture and at the boy in the picture. Aw, he doesn't look so tough, Mammoth said, and Gizmo nodded his head before looking at the young Naruto and snickering into his hands. Look at Tempest. He looks like he'd be related to Beast Strip with that goofy smile on his face, Gizmo said loudly before falling over laughing, Jinx merely glaring at the tiny terror for the unneeded crack at Naruto. Yeah, it's weird how I used to act like the green bean, huh? Came the sad boy's voice from behind the group, who all cursed at the same time before looking behind their shoulders to see Naruto sitting on his couch looking at them with his arms crossed over his chest. The blonde-haired boy then reached up to his head and pressed into the plates over his ears, revealing a pair of joints on his jaw, pushing the skull portion up to reveal the visor beneath it, and then pulled the lower jaw downward into a hanging position, while pushing the visor upward and removing the mask completely. Why is it so hard to remove that? Jinx asked after a brief silence, and Naruto and Gizmo both grinned to one another. If it wasn't made in this way, anyone could get it off, they both said, and Jinx slapped her face. Why hadn't any of the other heroes or villains thought of that? So who's that black-haired twerp? Mammoth questioned, and Naruto's grin faded into a serious expression. My problem, that's who. He and a couple other fuckheads were sent by my home village to drag me back, he said with a frown, and Jinx blinked, before frowning slightly, and looking at Naruto. You're Rouge Ninja then? She questioned with air quotes, and the blonde-haired boy, as well as Mammoth and Gizmo, all looked at her strangely, making her blush. Cheshire's a ninja, she said. They used to have all kinds of ninja like that back when they were allied to shoguns and such. Not so much anymore, Jinx explained, then shrugged, making Naruto roll his eyes. Yeah, well, I am one, and they're the Bakas my village sent after me. Probably by botching to drag my ass back to that shithole village, Naruto said with a frown, and Mammoth grinned, cracking his knuckles. Heh, I'd like to see any loser try to drag my buddy anywhere with me around, he said menacingly, and Naruto looked at him strangely. We're still friends, even after I betrayed you guys and blew up the academy? Naruto questioned, and Gizmo held his stomach and started laughing loudly. That was you? He asked loudly, and Naruto nodded his head, then watched as Gizmo fell to the ground laughing. Oh, that was priceless. Why didn't you invite me to help with that? I've only dreamed of blowing the school up like that, he said while continuing to laugh, and Mammoth slapped Naruto on the back, knocking the boy forward some from the force. Man, if I held a grudge against everyone who's either tried to blow me up, turn me into some goop, beat the hell out of me, or even set me on fire, I wouldn't have any friends at all, Mammoth then said, making his three friends look at him strangely. Jinx pushed me into the goop, Gizmo blew me up, Seymour set me on fire, and Private Hive tried to beat me up, Mammoth then listed, making Naruto look at Gizmo and Jinx with a raised brow, while both of the other Troika members were whistling innocently. Okay, besides the fact that your best friends all tried to hurt you in some way, shape or form, why aren't you mad? Naruto then asked with a confused expression and rubbing the back of his neck, making Gizmo snort. Jinx told us about brother blood, hate to say it, but I'm with you, I don't want anyone poking around inside my skull. The pint-sized terror growled out with Mammoth nodding his head with a frown. Only difference is we actually waited until we graduated to get out of there. Now the Hive bought us a place to stay. I've also been making a block for his psychic powers, so we won't have to worry about him trying to control us. Gizmo said with an evil grin, wringing his hands, while imagining the lab he was going to build, and the numerous insidious devices that it would produce. And seeing as we are still friends, want to stay with us. Jinx offered with a shrug, and Naruto leaned back, took a thoughtful expression, then smirked. Stay with my friends in some secret hideout, where no one will find me, or stay here and pay rent, while eventually Sasuke and the others will take their heads out of their asses long enough to look for my alias. Nah, I think I'll crash with you guys. Naruto said sarcastically, then stated with a grin as he got up and then went around the room gathering his things and stuffing them into his duffel bag. After that the blonde retrieved his mask and replaced it over his head and face, before then opening his window and motioning for the others to go out first. Why are we using the window? The door is over here. Jinx questioned, then stated with a wave to the mentioned portal, and Naruto slapped his masked face with an annoyed scowl under his mask. Because if people saw us walking out together, don't you think they just might notice 4 wanted criminals, all leaving an apartment rented by someone? The blonde asked with an annoyed tone, and Jinx blushed slightly before exiting through the window, Gizmo following with Naruto behind them, telling Mammoth to go out the door, seeing as he was too big for the window. Mammoth grumbled under his breath about bossy blondes before then heading out of the room, and up to the roof, so he wouldn't be seen either. The group came back together on the roof, with Naruto looking to the trucker. Where's this base located, Giz? Naruto questioned, and Gizmo rubbed his head. Outskirts of town on the east side, beside that stupid billboard with the Titans on it. He said, and Naruto rolled his eyes at the vague description before placing a hand on Jinx's shoulder, Gizmo placing one on her other shoulder and one of Mammoth's. What are you? Jinx started, then felt like her stomach was dragged from her body and out her throat somehow. She noticed a shimmering of light around them, then that everything seemed to blur, and suddenly, they stood before a large 3-story building that looked like the one that Brother Blood had set up for them. Looking around, her eyes widened, realizing it was the one Brother Blood set up for them. Coming, Naruto quipped, breaking Jinx from her shock as she saw him, and the other 2 Troika boys walking into the building. The pink-haired girl huffed, before rushing after the boys with an annoyed look in her eyes. Why were all men so impatient? Seeing the inside of the old warehouse made Naruto sigh. It was a complete wreck. Hell, half of the place had collapsed in on itself, no less. They stuck us with a burnout lair of all things. Gizmo shouted, and Naruto looked at him strangely. A burnout lair is a hideout the Hive gives to graduates with little skill and no talent for being a villain. It's a place more for hired muscle than anything else. Jinx explained, and Naruto could see the anger in her eyes plain as day, while Mammoth lifted up a large metal beam, only to find a familiar face sleeping on a couch in the center of the room, and snoring lightly. See more? Naruto questioned, and the said boy shook his head and sat up, then stretched out his arms and looked at the group groggily before waving once. Hey guys, Brother Blood said me and a couple others should crash with y'all for a while. The one-eyed teen explained before then laying back down and going back to sleep, while Mammoth grunted and tossed the metal beam to the side. Wait, what others? Naruto questioned, and Kid Wicked appeared before then and raised a hand in a simple hello. Oh well, that's not so bad. Naruto said, only for Kid to move, Mammoth doing the same as Private Hive landed before him, making the black-clad thief slap his face. Private Hive reporting for duty, sir. The shield-wielding teen said with a salute directed to Naruto, who sighed and looked at Jinx, who looked about as thrilled as he did about their new situation. Oh great, the walking disaster area, just what we need to fix this place. Naruto grumbled sarcastically, then looked around and sighed before making a familiar T-shaped seal. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, he exclaimed, and numerous copies of him appeared in many plumes of smoke, surprising those in the room, save the sleeping Seymour. Alright guys, I want the first half of you to check this place out for salvageable parts, the rest of you head out, and do your best to fix up the place. Take Mammoth and Private Hive with you. Naruto ordered, and the private saluted to him once more before walking off with Mammoth and several dozen clones. What about the rest of us? Jinx questioned, and Naruto took a thoughtful expression. Gizmo, can you make one of those solid hologram rooms they used at the Hive for training? The thief questioned of his tiny friend, who snorted. Yeah, but what the hell do you need one of those for? You're already tough enough to take out the Titans in 5 minutes flat. The little boy questioned, then exclaimed with a grin, and Naruto frowned to himself. I'm rusty. If I were at my peak, I wouldn't have needed those 5 minutes to take the Titans down, nor would I have passed out from a simple Adama or Sengen. I need to get back up to speed in case I have another run-in with Sasuke or any of the others. Naruto replied, then took a thoughtful expression. Jinx, you and Kid here are going to scout out the building and make a detailed list of all entrances and exits. That includes vents, and anything else you might use on a job, if you were going to sneak in here. When you have that, I'll work on getting our security up to my standards. Naruto said, and Jinx frowned, crossing her arms and then narrowing her eyes on Naruto. And what exactly are your standards? She asked, and Naruto chuckled lightly. By the time I'm done, no one will ever be able to get in here without us knowing it long before they realize it. Naruto answered, and Jinx actually smirked before nodding her head. Finally, someone who takes things seriously around here, she said, mostly to herself, and Naruto shrugged. Don't get too used to it, I'm just making sure we're secure from my old friends. After I'm sure we're all safe, I'll let the guys slack off some. With that, Naruto vanished off into the building, making Jinx huff and Kid roll his eyes. Come on, Kid, His Highness the Prince of all Thieves gave us a job to do. I'll check the vents and halls, you deal with the entrances. Jinx grumbled while grabbing Kid by his cloak and pulled him with her so they could get their own assigned tasks done with. At that moment, Seymour raised his head and looked around. Seeing no one around her, scratched his head and yawned. Why do I feel like I just missed something really important? He questioned of no one before shrugging his shoulders, laid his head back down, and fell asleep, once more snoring lightly on the couch. Later, Jinx was crawling through an air vent, grumbling under her breath every now and again, while also noting it was way too big. Who in the hell made these things so damn big anyways? I'll probably never know the answer to that question. She mumbled under her breath, then pushed the grate for this vent out, and pulled herself into one of the still demolished sections of the base, grunting and then leaning back to allow her spine to pop lightly. Why didn't Tem do this himself? He's crawled through enough vents to be a master of it. Jinx grumbled to herself, then walked down the halls, looking up and frowning, making a note that they'd need to add some security cameras to this hallway, and the next one and the next. Arg. Why in Christ's name did we get stuck with a fucking burnout lair for an HQ? We were the best damn students in the Hive. Jinx shouted angrily, then crossed her arms with a huff, cursing Brother Blood under her breath as she then walked down and turned into the next hall. The pink-haired girl wouldn't say it out loud, but she was relieved the Tempest or Red X, or whatever the hell he was calling himself, was there to help them whip this place into semi-decent shape. Not only that, but from their experience with him in the past, the teen was an excellent leader, constantly bettering himself and those around him, as best he could, sort of like an anti-Robin as some put it. For another thing, she was glad he was here so she would have someone at least partly intelligent to have a conversation with. Gizmo was a foul-mouthed, annoying little midget. Mammoth, while nice and kind of like an older brother, was still on the dim side. Private well. Besides having a hard hat and military background, all she knew was that he supposedly slept with a teddy bear. Kid never spoke unless it was to Angel, and even then that was rare, and Seymour, he had a crush on her, and yet constantly seemed to miss anything important. How he did that she would never know. However, upon reminding herself of Tempest, or was it Red X? She inwardly gave up that, and pulled a notepad from a pocket on her skirt, and wrote down what she had found about the halls and the vents. She made notes about cameras and sensors they should add around the base, while also mentioning the size of the air vents, and possible ways of rectifying this without any serious overhauls to the entire place. Tapping her chin with the pencil she brought with her lightly, she also mentioned some other facts, such as the fact that only one vent led outside, while the others seemed to draw from it. As Jinx continued down the hall with the paper, she blinked upon hearing the sounds of a fight. Putting the notepad up, the pink-haired girl slowly made her way towards the sounds, only to find Naruto, sans his mask and the extra armor padding of his suit, and fighting at least a dozen of his clones in the massive room near the center of the base on the first floor. Walking in, Jinx sees the blonde is using his sword, as are his clones. Only the one, whom she assumes is the original, is easily knocking them all back before swiping and sending 5 of the clones into plumes of smoke. Watching with a fascinated expression, Jinx sees Naruto then duck under one clone before backhanding the next, then jump over another with a kick to a clone behind it. Naruto then swings his sword, quickly slicing another clone in half, before then flipping into the air and stabbing down on another clone, leaving only the original and the final clone left smirking, as he makes a classic come on gesture with one hand to the final clone. The clone doesn't take the bait, however, and slowly both of the Narutos circle one another, only to quickly lunge forward, their blades moving in a single arc that appeared as though it was a mere flash of light. The clone that disappeared in a plume of smoke, and Naruto fell to one knee, panting heavily, then wiping his brow. Man, what a workout, right, Jinx? Naruto said, then questioned, looking towards the pink-haired girl with his trademark foxy grin, and actually making the pink on her cheeks brighten. How? Why, if this is you weak, you must be like a god at full strength. Jinx said flatly, and Naruto snorted before flipping back to his feet, and then rolling his shoulders around to loosen the stiff muscles. Nah, I'm rusty, not weak. My physical and elemental abilities have never been better. It's just I've been neglecting my chakra control training for a while now, so basically my chakra-based skills use up more chakra, and are a tad bit more erratic than they are supposed to be. Naruto said with a thoughtful expression before walking over to Jinx and looking the girl in the eyes. Need something? He questioned, and Jinx blushed once more before she quickly nodded her head and handed him her notepad. Taking the object, Naruto turned from Jinx, flipping through several pages and frowning in thought, though personally thought Jinx herself could get this place in shape from the suggestions she left. Hey, Tempest. Jinx then said, and Naruto turned his head towards her only to duck as she tried to kick him in the head, now grinning. "Would you mind having a light spar?" she quipped, and Naruto blinked, before flipping backwards several times to a makeshift table formed from slabs of dislodged wall, his armor and helmet resting on it. He put the notepad down, then looked at Jinx with a grin. "Come on," Naruto exclaimed while lunging at the pink-haired girl, spinning into a roundhouse kick. Jinx seemed to see this, however, and fell back. Using her legs, she bent along the ground, ducking under the kick, then kicked the blonde in the back. Naruto flew forward, only to flip himself in midair, then flipped to his feet facing Jinx with a grin, as he saw the girl get back to her own. "Peace, you one seriously flexible chick, Jinx," Naruto then said, and Jinx grinned once more, and then jumped forward into several forward flips, before planting both feet into Naruto's chest. The blonde expected something like this, however, and took hold of her legs, then spun on his heel and tossed the girl towards a wall. However, the pink pixie simply flipped in midair, her feet hitting the wall before she then flipped off the wall and into a handstand. The girl then spun and flipped into the air at the same time, landing in a pose facing Naruto with a catty grin. "What do you think?" the girl quipped, and Naruto took a mock thoughtful expression on his face, even going as far as cupping his chin with one hand. "Well, you stuck your dismount, not only that, but you showed some real flexibility there, so I give you a 10. Naruto said with a grin, and Jinx smirked, then lunged forward once more, kicking at the blonde's head once more as he moved back, then grabbed her leg at her next kick. "You know I can see your panties when you kick at me, right?" the blonde then asked, causing Jinx to nearly match her hair and eyes, before he then kicked her leg out from under her and spun her in midair, only for her to land on her hands and feet. Was it him, or was she really part cat? "Hey, cheek shot I call fell," Jinx shouted at Naruto, who scratched one cheek before grinning down at the girl. "Nope. We're criminals, he needs rules," he then said, and Jinx narrowed her eyes, and then used several flips to kick Naruto in the face, sending him flying back. Naruto hit and skid along the ground for a short while, before then hitting the wall, groaning and sitting up to glare at Jinx. "Okay, now the kid gloves are coming off," Naruto growled before lunging forward into a roundhouse kick, only for Jinx to kick at the same time, and both to spin back from their momentum. Naruto and Jinx both landed and flipped from a handstand to stand back to back. They both then quickly turned, Naruto lunging at the pink-haired girl with a roundhouse punch, which Jinx ducked under, then tried to counter with a rising kick. Naruto countered this with his own leg, however, then grabbed the front of Jinx's outfit. Jinx then rolled them both back, and they ended up with Jinx straddling the blonde and pinning him down at the waist. "Ha, got you," she said with a grin, only to notice a smirk on Naruto's face. Looking down, the pink-haired girl noticed that Naruto had at some point formed a Rasengan, and now had it aimed right at her stomach, and with his other arm holding her shirt she was unable to move. "Now then, who's got whom, missy?" he quipped with a smirk, and Jinx glared at the blonde-haired boy angrily. "Shut up, it wasn't even a real fight," the girl grumbled, and Naruto snickered. "Yeah, and Cheshire didn't lose to me, because of a wardrobe malfunction," Naruto quipped, and Jinx twitched slightly, before glaring at the blonde once more. "You caused the damn malfunction," she shouted, and Naruto shrugged without letting the Rasengan go. "That's what we call a technicality, my dear Jinx," Naruto quipped, and Jinx frowned, slowly moving so she was no longer straddling the blonde's waist. "You know, we're lucky no one can see this, or they might start to get ideas about us," Naruto then said while absorbing the chakra from the Rasengan back into his body. Jinx, at hearing this, blinked, then did turn the color to match her hair and eyes, before glaring at the blonde angrily. "Yeah, like you holding my shirt would have helped anything," she quipped while crossing her arms, and Naruto took a thoughtful expression once more. "No, it wouldn't. Good point," he conceded while then flipping back to his feet and dusting himself off. Jinx, getting back to her own feet, straightened out her own clothes before walking over to Naruto. "What?" the blonde asked, and Jinx poked him in the chest. "This little spar is never mentioned to anyone," she stated simply, and Naruto blinked before nodding his head slowly. "Good," Jinx said with a nod, and before Naruto could say anything witty or sarcastic, the girl jumped and wrapped her arms around his neck, planting a kiss on his lips, knocking him back and onto his ass, before she finally released his lips. "Then we'll never need to mention that either," Jinx then said with a Cheshire cat grin before getting off the blonde once more and leaving the large room, leaving an utterly confused Naruto behind her. "What the hell was that about?" the blonde asked with an utterly confused expression on his face. Hell, for all his flirting, he never actually thought it'd be Jinx to jump him like that. No, we won't be talking about that, not for a good long while at least. But when we do speak of this, I'm going to find out why the hell you just kissed me like that. Or at least why you didn't let me enjoy it. The blonde thought to himself, snickering at the end, then shaking his head, walking back to the makeshift table to get his armor and gear as well as the notepad Jinx had filled with ideas. Stopping for a second as he looked at his helmet mask's skull-marked face, Naruto couldn't help a slight smirk that crossed his lips. "Heh, Iro-senin, I bet you're still looking out for me from beyond the grave, aren't you?" he thought while shaking his head, then chuckled lightly. Why else would I have two different girls liking me, one jumping me with kisses and the other actually going out on a somewhat date with me? Naruto thought with a smirk still plastered onto his face before shaking his head, then walked back towards his room. It had been one hell of a day, that's for sure. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want a next part of this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification, and also check out the other videos that I have created, and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.
It's not a game, it's a